first regards in here, I'll be talking about a heroic White Scar's Chainsword build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 patch 13. Now, the main idea behind this build is using the perk over here, Retribution, for a 30% melee damage increase when our ranged weapons magazine is empty, on top of motivated melee on the Inferno pistol for another 20% melee damage increase on top of the Retribution perk. So, pretty fun perk option here. Now, it doesn't literally come out in the damage calculation to be 50%, but damage is damage. It is noticeable on the White Scar's Chainsword. Now, the White Scar's Chainsword is a very strong weapon in this game. This is a 12 strength, 8 speed, 4 clean potential block type weapon, and over here we have the perk effect Fury of Chigoris. Adrenaline Surge stacks are increased to 3. The third stack is a higher damage bonus, but the bonus for the second stack is reduced. This weapon feels very strong. I've seen a lot of people ask me, like, does this actually work like a normal block weapon? Do I get armor back on the second stack? You will still get the normal effect of a block weapon explosion and the armor restoration on the second stack. The third one will just give you more damage. Just keep that in mind. Now, a cool thing about this weapon is that because you have an 8 speed and a block variant, you are able to use the full throttle combo skip to skip directly into your stomp before you run out of block charges, which is pretty fun to use. Though the horde control on this one doesn't have like the same potential, say a balanced one, because you only have a 4 cleave. Because of that high speed, you can kind of just like chew through Minoris regardless. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do start off with the perk Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Swift Recovery once again. Heavy attacks restore 100% more contested health. Now, on an 8 speed weapon, it is so easy to skip to your bash or your kicks or just your stomp that this will come out all the time, and this will also help out even more with things like the Vanguard starting perk for 50% more contested health regen on melee attacks. So you have a really hard time on this class and build ever losing HP against like Hormagaunts or Zangors, so a really good perk option. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, up here into Perpetual Strength again. Then I move here into the perk Reverberating Impact. Stomp AoE radius increases by 50%. Now, because we can skip into our Stomp, like I said before, this perk will help us out even more. And then I move here into the perk Combined Onslaught for 10% more melee damage on a light combo. Down here into Heavy Onslaught for 15% more heavy attack damage, Full Throttle for the combo skip. If you're unaware on how to actually combo skip in this game, I will put like a link to a guide for that in the description below. And next perk here is Hard Target, over into the perk Majora Slayer, and that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree on this one. Now, for our primary, I do take the Occulus Bolt Carbine on the Headshot Multiplier version. The main reason I like this is because we are taking the perk over here, Tenacity, that gives us 130% more damage on a diving kick for a ranged kill, and this is really easy to pull off with the Occulus because the Occulus is just kind of a Majora sniper. Now, alternatively, you could pick up like the Marksman Carbine or the Heroic Instigator. Those are both good options, but we're going for a White Scars build today, and this one has a DLC White Scar skin, so we're doing that. Now, for the perk tree, I do start off with the perk over here, Remote Threat. Enemies at a distance of more than 25 meters take 20% more damage. Moving here into the perk Elusive Precision, after a perfect time dodge, maximum spread decreases by 25% for 10 seconds. This isn't super useful on this one because we already have a 5+ accuracy, but I will say sometimes it does help out with the hip fire. Next perk here is Fast Reload into the God tier perk Finisher Reload. After a finisher, the equipped weapon instantaneously reloads. This is super useful, like way better than it sounds initially. This gun's reload time is fairly long, and being able to instantaneously reload your weapon on your normal combat loop on top of getting HP back with Adrenaline Rush we'll get into later is a super nice perk option, so definitely pick this up. Next perk here is Recoupment. Killing a Majorist or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This is just free armor restore. It really comes into play far more than you would think. You can also just shoot an executable enemy in the head and get this back, so a really great perk option. Next perk here is Extended Magazine, down here into Divine Might. But then I pick up ammo perks like Magazine Restoration, Increased Capacity, because on this class, you definitely want more ammo because you're not super ammo efficient. Then I go up here into the perk Divine Might, and the final perk is Able Damage, because I find this one to do the most damage as compared to the one over here with Able Headshot. But you know, either will work. The damage discrepancy here does not matter too much. And that's pretty much all there is for the primary. Now, for our secondary, I do take the rate of fire version of the Inferno pistol, mainly so we can magazine dump, because we do want to have the perk here, a motivated melee, active as much as possible on top of Retribution. Now, something I want to say, when it comes to triggering these perk effects here for an empty magazine, your gun will automatically start to reload the moment you start to empty it in this game, which kind of sucks, but a way to circumvent that is by doing a single melee attack or like dashing. that will stop your reload animation, which will help you maintain this effect. Next perk here is Great Might, down here into the perk Perpetual Range. Then I pick up Increased Capacity, Adamant Restoration, and the final perks are Extra Shot and Trick Shot. Now you may be wondering, why don't we go down the top tree for like the one shot option? Well, the reason for that is this perk just is not worth it in my opinion. You are going to have a way easier time just mag dumping all 3 shots in like a second on the rate of fire version anyways, and also the bottom perk tree here has better ammo, better range, and also just a better perk effect of Trick Shot. So for that reason, I just prefer it this way, though you could build it up here if you wanted to. That's pretty much all there is for the weapon selection. Now, for our perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Upper Hand. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not control heavy hits and cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. When you are using a melee build like this, you definitely want to have no knockback of some kind, because moving target is not like the worst thing ever with an Occulus Bolt Carbine. The Occulus can definitely snipe cultists and stuff like that, especially on the new map Purgation, where like the range is pretty far on some of the map areas, or like the swamp areas especially, but on this build, you definitely want Upper Hand. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction here, stacked with the perk over here through all the fight for another 20% health damage reduction for 5 seconds on parry, block, or dodge, makes you actually very tanky on this class, and being super tanky on top of having health regen from Adrenaline Rush from Signature Tree, that makes you pretty damn hard to kill. You are effectively a honey badger of classes at that point, so for that reason, I do prefer picking up the damage reduction here. Next perk here is, of course, Retribution, moving here into the perk Inner Fire. Now, since we are picking up healing over here, we do not need to take the healing perk on our team perk selection. You could take this if you wanted to, but Inner Fire is also a very strong perk effect, especially for hard strats and operations, where it says all team members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majora's or higher enemies. Now this will trigger on any finisher, so that includes gun strikes and like a melee execute. It will no longer work on normal kills though, so just keep that in mind. Next perk here is Collateral Damage. Diving Kick deals 50% more damage and additionally damages enemies on the way to the grapple launcher's target, on top of Tenacity for a 130% damage buff with a cooldown of 15 seconds on a ranged kill, Majora's or higher enemy. Now you can pick up whatever you want in this tree here, like Shock and Awe is good, Restless Fortitude is good. The Vanguard's grapple launcher does scale up in damage with difficulty these days, but Collateral Damage on top of Tenacity, that's a pretty good perk combo, and also the Oculus has a pretty easy time triggering this, like I mentioned before. Next perk here is Thrill the Fight and Adrenaline Rush, and that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. Now, for our Prestige perk selection, it is pretty standard. I take Battlefield Awareness first. If it targets within 8 meters, you'll do 10% more range damage because you are a Vanguard, and Vanguard is like, you know, within 8 meters of an enemy all the time because you have a fucking grapnel launcher, so for that reason, I pretty much always pick this up. But I will say, if you want to take the perk over here, Moving Target, or like for whatever godforsaken reason you want Melee Mastery, you can definitely pick up Indomitable Spirit. This will give you no knockback on gun strikes, and that is really useful if you have no other source of it. But this is also a redundant perk effect if we do have Upper Hand. Now, for the final perks here, I take Fortitude, Launch Restoration, and Restoration for Armor Restore, and that is pretty much all there is for this build, guys. The Oculus Bolt Carbine is pretty strong. The other variants are not super good on this. I would definitely stick with the 2.8 times headshot multiplier, even though all the headshot damage and like body shot damage got changed around a bit this patch. This weapon is still very strong. The Inferno pistol is great secondary these days, and the White Scar's Chainsword is a very powerful melee weapon, and probably the best chainsword in the game, in my opinion. And like maybe the other block version is a bit better sometimes, because you can one combo guys off of this one with Retribution, but for the most part, the utility of the White Scar's Chainsword is just way better. So for that reason, that's why I took it on this build, and hopefully this build guide helped you. If you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to watch me live to ask me questions about the game or just coming out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description. I'll also have a link to my community Discord. Hey guys, first regards from here, and so I'll be talking about a Heroic Instigator Bolt Carbine build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 Patch 13. Now, this build will be using, of course, the Heroic Instigator Bolt Carbine and stuff like Tip of the Spear to buff up our close range damage. Now, this weapon is actually pretty damn good. I think the Heroic Instigator Bolt Carbine is one of the better options in the game for range weapons at the moment, and pretty comparable to stuff like the Marksman Carbine, like automatic version here. Now, For the perk tree, I do pick up pretty much all of the ammo perks because on Vanguard, your ammo economy does kind of suck. And because of that, we do start off with the perk here, Extended Magazine first. Magazine size increases by 15% of the maximum. Going here into the perk Reload Restoration. After reloading your ammo reserve is restored by 50% of the number of enemies hit. Cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. Now, this one's actually a pretty strong ammunition economy perk. Much better than stuff like Magazine Restoration for like dropping below 30% HP in my opinion. So definitely a good pickup. Next perk here is Divine Might for a 10% damage buff. Then we go through here into the perk Increased Capacity for even more ammo, over into the perk here Great Might, down to the perk Home Precision for way better hip fire. Like the hip fire here with this perk is actually pretty strong, so I would definitely pick this up. And the final perks here are Recoupment for armor regen on headshot, because this perk is very strong on every single bolt weapon in the game pretty much for ops and hard strats. And I also pick up Tactical Precision because headshot damage here is still overall better than body shot damage. If you want to skip this for like, I guess, a reload speed or something, you can definitely do that, but for the most part, I think it's a worthwhile pickup. Next perk here is Cleaving Fire, and the final perk here is Rampage. After killing 7 enemies rapid succession, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Now, on a Vanguard class, it's actually pretty good because you don't really need the perk up here, Rapid Health, for healing, and even though you're losing a little bit of headshot damage here, the 25% buff is actually quite strong on this perk effect. And that's pretty much all there is for the Heroic Carbine. Now, for the secondary weapon, I do take the newly buffed Neo Volkite pistol. Now, in patch 13, they actually upped the contested health recovery of this weapon on top of the heating speed, and it feels way better now. I mean, I'll be honest, the contested health recovery isn't that strong, but the heating speed is a huge buff, so great weapon. And I always kind of like the Neo Volkite anyways on classes that had a primary, because the big problem with this gun was always that contested health recovery, and the damage was like okay, but now the damage is way better because of that heating speed effectively, and also the Vanguard has a primary anyways, so the low contested health is kind of circumvented by that. Now, for the perk tree here in the variant, I just take the firepower version because more damage on this gun is in my opinion much better than just like a little bit of extra ammo, because the ammo economy here is not that bad anyways, and a little bit of like the DPS increase is quite nice. Now, for the perk tree here, I do start off with the perk Extended Magazine first, moving here to the perk Combustive Momentum. After a gun strike, heating speed increases by 30% for 6 seconds. This is a really nice perk here. I do quite prefer Combustive Momentum over things like Gunstrike Reload on this gun. Then we go through here into the perk Increased Capacity, into the perk here Volkite Discharge Area, because Volkite Discharge Area expands by 20%. Moving into the perk Accelerate Combustion for a heating speed increase of 20% as well. Really strong perk of this gun these days. Up here into the perk Heat Retention, heat enemies cool down 25% slower. Moving into the perk Volkite Discharge. After killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a melee weapon, damage of the Volkite Discharge increases by 30% for 10 seconds. Now keep in mind, you can trigger this perk effect on a melee execute, not just a melee kill, but you also have to have the weapon equipped. If you swap off during those 10 seconds, you lose the effect, so just be aware of that. Final perk here is a Volkite Blitz. Volkite discharge damage increases by 25%, and the discharge area increases by 25% as well. Now, the perks down here, like Distributed Deflagration, excuse me, this perk is okay. I think the damage buff and area buff here is just way better in my opinion, and also Volkite Discharge is far superior to a Violent Deflagration, which is just a heating speed increase, because we already have pretty good heating speed on this weapon already these days. That's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now, for the melee weapon, I do take the new Heroic Chainsword, the White Scars Chainsword, which is one of the best melee weapons in the entire game right now. The Heroic perk effect down here is called Fury of Chigoris. Adrenaline Surge stacks are increased to 3. The third stack is a higher damage bonus, but the bonus for the second stack is reduced. The damage on this weapon is incredible, the speed is incredible, it's one of the most fluid weapons in all Space Marine 2, and also the third stack here from Fury of Chigoris, and this will last for 4 seconds, something like the normal 2.2 seconds of other Adrenaline Surge stacks, so even better than it sounds initially, and I would pretty much always use this weapon on a Chainsword these days because it is a very powerful option in Space Marine 2. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do start off with the perk Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Swift Recovery. This just doubles your CHP recovery on heavy attacks, and the Vanguard already has a 50% buff to this on melee hits with its starting perk, so really good for him. And the next perk here is Perpetual Strength, up here into Perpetual Strength again, moving into the perk Reverberating Impact for a stop AoE radius increase of 50%. And then I grab the perk here Combined Onslaught, down to the perk Heavy Onslaught and Full Throttle for the combo skip. If you don't know how this works, I do have a full guide on this. I'll put in like the description below. Moving here to the perk Hard Target, and then the final perk here is Majora Slayer, because you don't actually need Extremis Slayer to one combo Majoras on this build usually. I mean, this will definitely help out at times, but there are ways to do that on the White Scar's Chainsword in that guide I'll post below. And that's pretty much all there is for the White Scar's Chainsword. Now, for our perk tree, it's pretty standard here. I start off with the perk here, Upper Hand first. After perk time, parry, block, or dodge, you know that scroll heavy hits cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. When you are playing with a block weapon, you always want no knockback like this, so definitely grab this perk. Next perk here is Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 10 seconds on armor break, because this makes you way tankier, one of the best survivability perks in the entire game. Moving here to the perk Consecutive Execution, killing 7 enemies rapid session for equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. A 90-second Melt-A-Bombs, Shock Grenades, Cracks, these will just save your games, and like honestly, equipment regen is just a top tier effect in every game mode of Space Marine 2, so definitely grab this for like a top tier build on this. Next perk here is Inner Fire. All teamers restore ability charged by 15% by performing finishers on Majoras or higher enemies. This perk is super underrated. I mean, not like that underrated, but definitely better than people think it is compared to Unmasked, and for the most part, this will solve the CDR economy of like half the classes in the game, and especially yours, because the Grapnel Launcher, despite being one of the weaker abilities in Space Marine 2 currently, really benefits from this perk thanks to effects here like Restless Fortitude for a 40% range damage reduction, Tip of the Spear for like debuffs on the enemy for range attack damage, and stuff down here like Launch Restoration for armor regen on every grapnel use. So really powerful perk effect. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. Moving here into the perk Tip of the Spear. Enemies hit by diving kick take 15% more range damage for 10 seconds. This is not like that strong of a perk effect, but I do actually quite enjoy it in the game, because sometimes I just get bored of like the execute build, Zone of Impact, and stuff like Tenacity, so this is a nice alternative. Next perk here is Combat Readiness for even faster grapnel launcher recharge, and the final perk is Adrenaline Rush for some HP healing. They could also take like, you know, Tactical Prowess, or even the perk here Emperor's Blessing, or like maybe even swap it out for an execute build. That is up to you. That's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. Now, for our Prestige perk options, this is also pretty standard. We take Battlefield Awareness to buff up our damage at close range even more with our Instigator. Moving here to the perk Fortitude for health increase of 15%, and we just go for the top tier armor regen effects here with Launch Restoration and Restoration, because this one gives you so much free armor, especially with Inner Fire, and Restoration is a top tier perk effect in the game already. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. I mean, the Heroic Instigator feels really fun on the Vanguard class. Somebody actually asked me about this weapon the other day, so we're making this build here and now, and hopefully this build guide helped you. Hey guys, first regards in here, and I'll be talking about the best Vanguard Hey guys, first regards from here, I'll be talking about the best build for Vanguard, Space Marine 2 Patch 13. Now, the Vanguard is getting some buffs in the future to his like grapnel targeting and stuff like that, but for now, his builds have remained mostly the same, so we'll be going over those today and just showing you the best options on the Vanguard class. So first up, we have the Melter Rifle. Now, the Melter Rifle is still, in my opinion, the overall best option on the Vanguard. Other great options include stuff like the Headshot Multiplier version on the Occulus, or the Automatic Carbine variant built like this. They're all pretty good on him, or even the Heroic Instigator is quite strong, but the reason I prefer the Melter Rifle is that number one, this one has great stagger, great healing, and great armor regen, on top of the fact that it also solves the horrific ammo economy of this class with perks like Decisive Reload. Performing a finisher on a Majora's or higher enemy with this weapon restores ammo by 1. This will trigger on any finisher as long as your Melter Rifle is equipped, so really easy to pull off. So as long as you do that, make sure to swap to your Melta during any finisher on a Majora's or higher, and you will get 1 ammunition back. That is super valuable, and actually comes out to way more than you'd expect. Now, the next perk here is Rapid Health. When your health's below 30%, killing 7 enemies rapid session restores health by 10%. This is a very powerful perk that gets you above those like one-shot breakpoints at low HP, and also very easy to pull off on a Melter Rifle because it's a flippin' Melter Rifle. So next thing here is Trick Shot. Killing 5 enemies with 1 shot restores 1 armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Getting armor back for one-shotting 5 guys on a Melter Rifle for hard strats and operations is very easy to do, because Cultists will die in 1 shot, Hormigons die in 1 shot, Zangors that don't have shields will die in 1 shot. and also stuff like Spore Mine, so really easy to trigger this on a 30-second cooldown. Next perk here is Great Might over here into the perk Divine Might for 10% damage increase. And then I pick up the perk Extended Magazine into the perk here First Shot, and then the final two perks are Retaliation for 25% more damage on a perk time dodge, and the final perk is Perpetual Fire for a fire rate increase of 10%. That's really all you need to build for like any variant of the Melter Rifle. Now, as far as variants for the Melter Rifle are concerned though, I do take the range version over the magazine capacity version on the operations mode, and mainly because your ammo economy is pretty strong on this, like I mentioned before, and you really do not need to like take the extra magazine capacity and stuff like that here, because this one actually has a way better damage fall off than this one does, and because of that you're gonna have an easier time against things like shield Zangors, or excuse me, the floating Zangors, like Zangor Enlightened, and also stuff like Zoanthropes, which can get pulverized by this actually fairly easily. And that's pretty much all there is for the primary weapon here. Now for our secondary weapon, I do take the Retribution's Request Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol. The main reason we take this is because the Vanguard can set up gunstrike opportunities to trigger perk effects like Tactical Prowess by basically using the power axe to parry an enemy, gunstrike them off the power wave, and immediately put them into that breakpoint range so we can grapple onto them and trigger this perk effect we'll get into later on top of Zone of Impact. So that's why I do prefer this one, because currently this has the highest gunstrike damage on Vanguard. And for the perk tree here, we do pick up the perk Divine Might first, all the way down the bottom tree into things like Death Strike, which says after killing a Majoris or higher in melee combat, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. This will trigger off of a melee finisher, not just a melee kill, so keep that in mind. All you have to do to make sure this actually happens is make sure your weapon is equipped. And the only downside here, or negative synergy, is that to trigger this perk effect, you can't swap off your gun, and you have to have the gun equipped, which means you are not going to be able to get the perk trigger of Decisive Reload here simultaneously, so you have to choose there. So like that does kind of suck, but still this buff is very strong. Next perk here is Great Might over here into the perk Strong Start, and the final perk here before we get into the top row is Able Damage. After using class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. This perk effect is very strong in both the Vanguard and Assault class because you actually use your class ability all the time on these guys. They have great CDR perks like Combat Readiness, Inner Fire, and stuff like that, and that allows you to just get way more triggers off of this perk effect than say a Tactical does, so I definitely pick it up here. Next perk here is Home Precision for a 50% reduction in weapon spread while hip firing, and then we go up here into Gunstrike Reload, and the final perk here, Tactical Precision, which says headshots deal 20% more damage, and non-headshot damage decreases by 10%, because headshot damage is still the best overall option on this weapon. And also, the heroic perk effect here is called No Help Is Coming, for those of you who are unaware. This one says shooting an enemy with lead stream status effect stops with point reinforcements, and headshots will kill in one shot. So this actually saves you a lot of ammo on Absolute and above, because really in this game, whenever you stop a reinforcement calling enemy on Absolute or like lethal difficulty and hard strats, they will go enraged, and this will kind of like circumvent that and save you not only an entire horde, but also just save you a full heal from an enraged enemy. So a really good perk effect. Now for the melee weapon, you actually have a couple options here. So number one, the Balanced Power Axe. This one is very strong, and the reason I like this on the Vanguard in general is because the Power Axe, the power backstep of this weapon, it will move you out of range to actually grapnel back into an enemy with your grapnel launcher. The grapnel launcher targeting has a 10-meter range requirement, which feels awful in this game. This one does kind of help mitigate that a bit, and even though you can still do that with a block axe, the balanced weapon allows you to get your gun strike as well, which can trigger that breakpoint for a 33% tactical prowess finisher we'll get into later. So just keep that in mind. Both the block, balance, fencing, they can all do that. It's just like up to you which one you prefer. And as far as the balance and block version are concerned, I would set them up this way, with Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Coup de Grace. The last strike of a light combo deals 25% more damage. Then I pick up the perk here, Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength again, moving here into the perk Counterattack. The first light attack within 5 seconds after a perfect parry or perfect block deals 25% more damage. Then we go down here into the perk Riposte. Overhead strike damage after performing a power backstep is doubled. So a neat effect of the power axe is that you can use your power backstep and like move your camera to overhead strike with the double riposte damage on a different enemy instead. So you actually have a lot of opportunities to use this. So really strong perk effect, and a double damage on your overhead is very strong. And the next perk here is Hard Target. Moving here to the perk Tactical Retreat. Power Backstep deals 25% more damage. This helps you hit breakpoints, like actually get that 33% HP on an enemy for your Tactical Prowess trigger, so really good here. Then we go up here into the perk Power Wave. Power Backstep Wave damages more enemies. This one is just a straight buff to your Power Wave. It's going to hit more enemies, and also in patch 13, they did fix the Power Wave to hit more enemies like it was supposed to do anyway, so this perk is even better. Next perk here is Cleaver for a 10% buff against Majora's and higher enemies, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe. Now, alternatively, you could pick up the Chainsword and build it like this on like the new White Scars variant, or the block version, like really anyone you want, and the Argent Edge is still a very potent effect on this class as well. It's just that the Block Axe and Balance Axe, these ones do the most damage, and that Power Backstep movement, that does help you the most as a Vanguard like class synergy. Now, for the fencing option on the Power Axe, you can set up a little bit differently. The only major change I would make here is going down the top tree like this to pick up things like Power Strike, because this is just a very potent effect on this class in general. You also pick up like things like Endless Slash, but this one says Gun Strike from Power Stance deals 20% more damage. This just gives you more gun strike damage, and the actual damage of your Power Axe here on the fencing version is not that strong, so having this breakpoint here can definitely help you out sometimes on like harder to hit enemies and trigger this 33% threshold. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe tree. Now for our perk tree selection on the Vanguard class here, we do take the perk Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. No knockback in Space Marine 2 will just save your life. The Vanguard is no different, and having this will work for gun strikes. It'll work for things like light attacks on any enemy. And if you're unaware of how no knockback works in Space Marine 2, any attack that would knock you over will only stagger you, and any attack that would stagger you will do nothing instead. So a really powerful effect to prevent stun locks, and also the perks in this column kind of suck. Like Melee Mastery, this perk effect is not remotely as strong as it should be. It's not a multiplicative buff like it's supposed to be. This one is really closer to like a 10% buff on your standard issue weapon, and the perk up here, Moving Target, killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters restores ability charge by 10%. A 30-meter distance requirement sucks, so just pick this perk up instead. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction is incredible in Space Marine 2, and this will make you very tanky on this class because you can stack this with perk effects over here, like Thrill of the Fight for another 20% health damage reduction for a 45% total, which is really strong. Like, that's a pretty substantial amount of damage reduction, and this class already has a ton of armor regen down here with stuff like Launch Restoration and Restoration. So looping back into this perk on Armor Break is really easy to do, and you also have a 15% starting HP increase here too, so a 45% HP damage reduction on top of that is a very potent effect. Now the next perk we take here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now equipment recharge in Space Marine 2 is just a god tier effect. 90-second Melt-A-Bombs, 90-second Crack Grenades, it does not matter. These things can save your games in any game mode, so you pretty much always pick this perk effect up. And the next perk here is Unmask. Melee finishers of Extremis or Terminus level enemies additionally restore health by 30% for any team member. This is just the best overall perk for like 99% of players, in my opinion. Healing is just a really powerful effect for newer players and experienced players. And Inner Fire is also a very strong perk effect for CDR, but like when it comes to the majority of the player base, I think you should just take this perk. I think you'll feel way better using this one, and for the most part, it'll make your games go way smoother on like hard strats, siege mode, and operations. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. This is a very strong perk. A 40% range damage reduction here is really nice to have, but I will say the entire column here is pretty decent. Like Shockwave can clear out Spore Mines, and the Bramble. Collateral damage will help you just deal more direct damage to enemies, and also the Grapnel Launcher diving kick. This will scale up with difficulty, so this one also benefits from that, though I do kind of prefer Restless Fortitude just because it's a catch-all for like both Chaos and Tyranids. And also, this perk will trigger off of grapnel finishers, so it's even better with the perk combo we'll get into in a second. Next perk here is Zone of Impact. Performing a finisher with the grapnel launcher deals damage to nearby enemies. Now, this perk, the description does not properly express how much damage you actually do. This one will chunk Majora's HP in like an AoE zone. It is a super powerful option on the Vanguard. By far the fundamental perk combo for this class, because it takes Zone of Impact, you take the perk here, Tactical Prowess, that says Grapnel Launcher can activate a finisher not only on incapacitated enemies, but also on those who have less than 33% health, except Terminus level, and performing a finisher with the Grapnel Launcher restores its charge. So, really good perk combo with this, because you kind of see the whole flow chart here, where you get a guy low, you grapple to them, you trigger the AoE, you get all the guys around him low, you grapple to those guys, and then you trigger this perk, and you get another AoE over and over and over again. In fact, this is not only like the best horde clear on this class outside of Melt-A-Bomb spam, it is also like the best boss damage at times for certain scenarios, so definitely pick this up. If you're going for like a top tier Vanguard build, this is just the only like right option in my opinion. There are also like good perks down here like Tenacity, and also Tip of the Spear is okay, but Zone of Impact is just kind of in a league of its own. Next perk here is Thrill of the Fight. After you perk time parry, block, or dodge, you will take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This is a free damage reduction in my opinion. This will trigger on every single defensive mechanic in the game, parry, block, and dodge, and because of that, a 20% health damage reduction is going off all the time. And also, unlike a lot of the other perk effects in Space Marine 2, this one will trigger over and over, even if the duration is not up yet. What I mean by that is, if you have 3 seconds of the 5 seconds left, and you get another perfect parry or block, you will trigger this again for the full 5 seconds, so really easy to keep up the entire time. Next perk here you can take though is Combat Readiness. Grapnel Launcher recharges 20% faster, because if you are taking the healing perk here, this one can help you get back those grapnels a bit faster if you like miss tactical prowess for whatever reason. And that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree here. Now for our prestige perk list, I do take Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you'll deal 10% more range damage. Moving here to the perk Fortitude for health increase of 15%. And then we pick up the perk here, Launch Restoration. Using the grapple launcher restores an armor segment. This perk is like super underrated sometimes. This does so much work for you, because any amount of armor remaining in Space Marine 2 will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0, even from bosses, and because of that, getting 1 armor back while grappling into like a Carnifex, that means that they just can't do any damage to you directly to your HP on their next attack in melee, which is a pretty powerful option. And also, armor will benefit from range damage reduction perks, which means you're going in, you're triggering the armor restoration here, and you're also triggering the perk here for 40% range damage reduction, which is incredible. So like, you're tankier against Rubric Marines, you're tankier against Devourers and stuff like that, and melee enemies can't do any damage to you for their first attack no matter what, so definitely pick this up all the time. Next perk here is Restoration. Killing 7 enemies rapid succession restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This one is just free armor regen on a cooldown. I mean, it's not as good as Launch Restoration in my opinion, so if you want to swap this out for like Indomitable Spirit or Well Equipped, you could, but more armor is always better in my opinion, so I picked this one up as well. And that's pretty much all there is for the Vanguard build here. You know, the Vanguard is in a pretty okay spot. Like, the only thing he's really struggling with is like boss damage, but as far as general gameplay goes, this class is in a perfectly fine spot. I know we talk about him being like the weakest class in Space Marine 2 currently, but that's to say he's like the 7th best class. He's still very potent in hard strats, very potent in operations. He can still fit right into siege mode builds, so hopefully this build guide helped you. If you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about the easiest Vanguard build in Space Marine 2 patch 13 to dominate hard strats and operations. And now, the thing we're building around today is maximum healing with stuff like Adrenaline Rush, on top of the easiest weapons we can find with a Fencing Power Axe and the Melter Rifle. Now, the Melter Rifle variant I've chosen here is the ranged version, because the damage fall off on this variant is way better than the other two. Like, this gun is super underrated, but it makes your Melter Rifle way more effective overall, so definitely grab this. And the ammo economy on the Melter Rifle is actually pretty strong already, thanks to the perk down here, Decisive Reload. Performing a finisher on a Majoris or higher enemy with this weapon restores ammo by 1. Now, the only thing you have to do is just make sure your Melta is equipped, but as long as that's happening, you will get the ammo restoration immediately, so a very strong ammo economy perk, especially for Vanguard. Next perk here is Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores health by 10%. This may be a bit redundant on the Vanguard, but it's also like the best perk row anyways, and Rapid Health on a Melta is super easy to pull off, so great perk. Next perk here is Trick Shot for 1 armor back on a 30-second cooldown for killing 5 enemies with 1 shot. Up here into the perk Great Might, over into the perk Divine Might for a damage increase of 10%, and then we pick up Extended Magazine into the perk here First Shot, all the way down the top row with Retaliation for 25% more damage on a perfect dodge, into the perk here Perpetual Fire for a fire rate increase of 10%. And that is pretty much how you build any Melta in the game, because unfortunately, the weapon perk trees and a lot of guns in Space Marine 2 are not that diverse, but that's pretty much all there is for our primary now. For our secondary selection, I do take the ammo reserve option on the heavy bolt pistol, mainly because the ammo economy here is very strong for Vanguard, and also the gun strike damage is quite high in this gun in patch 13 still, and I'll also say that having a heavy bolt pistol may not be that strong against Chaos, but with a melter rifle, you kind of make up for like any discrepancy here, and it's like pretty strong against both factions on a Vanguard especially. Now for the perk tree, it is pretty standard. We go all the way down the bottom tree, Divine Might, all the way into Death Strike. Then you can make a choice of like either going up here for discipline like I did, or able damage down here for more damage on a class ability use. Now, the reason I'm skipping over this today is because I am taking both healing perks here, so I don't have as much CDR on my grapnel. But that being said, if you take like Inner Fire instead, this is definitely a better perk option overall, in my opinion. Now, the perk down here, Death Strike, after killing a Majoris or higher enemy melee combat, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. You do have to have your secondary equipped, and that also means you will not get the decisive reload trigger on your melter rifle, so you have to choose between them, which does kind of suck. But that being said, you know, that is up to you, and you still have that option in your games. Next perk here is Great Might, up here into the perk Discipline, and then I pick up the perk here, Strong Finish, into the perk Headhunter, Gun Strike Reload, and Tactical Precision, because 20% more damage on headshots is just always worth taking, in my opinion, and some alternative options for your secondary, stuff like the Neo Volkite, which I would build this way, or an Inferno Pistol, which I would build this way, and that's pretty much all there is for the secondary option. Now, for the primary melee weapon, I do take the fencing power racks because we're just going for gun strikes on this one. Number one, we start here with perpetual speed into the perk here, confidence stance. Now, usually I would go all the way down here with stuff like coup de grace and stuff like that, but on a fencing power racks, you really don't care about the damage that much, to be entirely honest. Like, this is mostly a parry stick they're using for gun strike buffs, and going down here for discharge from the top tree is just nicer in my opinion, because this is actually pretty good for horde control on a fencing weapon, so that's why I pick it up. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, over here into the perk Patient Stance, and then we grab the perk here Power Strike for 20% more gun strike damage from Power Stance, and then we grab the perk over here Power Wave, the Tactical Retreat perk for more power backstep damage. Doesn't matter too much on this, but you go down here into the perk Cleaver, Rebound for more CHP recovery on light attacks, and the final one's of course Discharge. And obviously alternatively you could build it more like a block axe with stuff like the balanced version, or just take a block axe in general if you're more comfortable with that. But that is up to you. That's pretty much all there is for the melee weapon. Now, for our main perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose trophy heavy hits, cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. Now, no knockback on this class is just super useful because you are a melee class, and having this option for hyper armor, you just always take this in my opinion. Like, melee mastery is not very strong, moving target is garbage on this build, so definitely pick this up. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction in this game is super high. Like, this makes you very tanky, and also stacks over here with the perk Thrill of the Fight for another 20% health damage reduction, so you actually become quite tanky on the Vanguard class and option strats of this combo, so very strong option. Next perk here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, equipment restoration in Space Marine 2 is just incredible. It will save your games in like every game mode of a Space Marine 2 pretty much. It doesn't matter if you're in hard siege, doesn't matter if you're in operations or hard strats. A melt-a-bomb is a melt-a-bomb, and a melt-a-bomb is always useful. Next perk here is Unmatched Zeal. Melee finishers of Extremis or Terminus level enemies additionally restore health by 30% for any team member. Now, this just makes the Extremis a health pack every single time, which is really nice. And I will say, if you feel more comfortable, you can take Inner Fire instead. I do think this actually works better on this build, and like the healing here can be a bit redundant, but we're going for the easiest option available, and that's definitely this. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. Now, range damage reduction in this game will affect your armor, not just your HP, so it's actually really strong here, and to be honest, this perk is super underrated because getting a 40% range damage reduction for 10 seconds on a class ability use, that is really strong. Next perk here is Tenacity. After a range kill of Majoris or higher enemy, diving kicks damage increases by 130%. The cooldown is 15 seconds. You can really take whatever you want here, like Tip of the Spear, even the perk here, Zone of Impact. They will all work, but like for the most part, I do like the damage of this. Next perk here, Slow the Fight, for a 20% health damage reduction for 5 seconds on parry, block, or dodge. You will be parrying, blocking, and dodging no matter what in Space Marine 2, so this is pretty much always up. And the final perk here is Adrenaline Rush for a 5% HP restore on a Majoris kill or higher in melee or melee execute. Now for the prestige perk options, I do take Battlefield Awareness first. If the target is in 8 meters, you'll deal 10% more range damage. Now we do have a Melter rifle, so it's kind of a no-brainer to pick this up. Next perk here is Fortitude for health increase of 15%. Moving here to Launch Restoration and Restoration. Now, this gives you a ton more value on your grapnel launcher because 1 armor back is super strong for that, especially with the range damage reduction from this perk here. And also Restoration is just a top-tier perk effect in the game already. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. I mean, this is probably the easiest build on the Vanguard, in my opinion. Though there are stronger options, this one should serve you well on both Chaos and Tyranids, and hopefully this build guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description. I'll also have a link to my community Discord. Guys, first regardsman here, so I'll be talking about a White Scars Chainsword Retribution build for the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2 Patch 13. Now, the White Scars Chainsword is the best chainsword in Space Marine 2 in my opinion, and probably one of the best weapons in the entire game currently, and the heroic perk effect down here is called Fury of Tagoras. Adrenaline Surge stacks are increased to 3, the third stack is a higher damage bonus, but the bonus for the second stack is reduced. Now, you will still get the armor explosion effect on the second stack and the third stack, so it functions pretty much exactly like a normal block weapon, and this one actually comes out to a ludicrous amount of damage. You can one combo Extremis on the third stack, and also that third stack will last for 4 seconds instead of the 2.2 of a normal surge charge, so really strong weapon here right now. I'll be building around that today. So number 1 for the perk tree, I do take the perk Perpetual Strength first, melee damage increases by 5%. Moving here into the perk Swift Recovery. Heavy attacks restore 100% more contested health. Now, on the Chainsword with an 8 speed here, this is very powerful at getting back your CHP, especially on the Vanguard class, because the Vanguard has a 50% buff already to its contested health regen, and that makes you significantly more effective on this weapon as well with Swift Recovery, so really great synergy for this class. And then we move here into the perk Perpetual Strength, up here into the perk Perpetual Strength again, and then we pick up the perk here Reverberating Impact. Stomp AoE radius increases by 50%. Now, because you have an 8 speed on this weapon, you also have a 4-second duration on that last charge here. You can actually combo skip on the second charge to your stomp, or just not even use a combo skip and go straight to the stomp on the third charge. So really strong to have like extra stomp radius here. Then we through here into the perk Combined Onslaught, down here into Heavy Onslaught, full throttle for the combo skip. Then we go up here for Hard Target and Majora's Slayer, though alternatively, you could pick up Extremis Slayer and the perk down here Minora's Slayer, but I just prefer this one on this build because you can actually one combo Extremis without Extremis Slayer. I was actually incorrect on my old guide. I will be making an updated White Scars Chainsword guide though to like fix that discrepancy, so hopefully that'll be out by the time I post this. And that's pretty much all there is for the White Scars Chainsword. Now, for the primary weapon here, we do take the heroic Instigator Carbine, mainly because this weapon is very strong at close and medium range, and that's where we want to be on a Vanguard anyways. And the heroic perk effect down here is called Higher Rate Burst. This will give us a 5-round burst over the standard 3 on a relic tier option. That ups your DPS tremendously because you also have a higher base damage on this one than all of these as well, so a really good option for you. Now, for the perk tree here, since we are a Vanguard, I do predominantly build around the ammo economy, starting off with the perk here Extended Magazine, into the perk over here Reloaded Restoration. After reloading, your ammo reserve is restored by 50% of the number of enemies hit, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity, so this one is super nice to just like keep your ammo topped off because there are some like ammo droughts in some of the maps in this game. This will help out with that a ton. Next perk here is Divine Might, into the perk here Increased Capacity. Then I pick up the perk Great Might down here for the Hipfire perk Home Precision. Equip weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. This perk effect is incredible. A 50% reduction on your maximum spread is just a top tier thing for this, and Home Precision will help out the Vanguard a ton because being able to hip fire a headshot is just a bit quicker sometimes than like ADSing, so really good option there. Next thing here is Recoupment. Killing a Majora's or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor restore built into your weapon like this is super nice. And we also have to pick this perk up to go into the next perk here, which is Tactical Precision. Headshots deal 20% more damage. Non-headshot damage decreases by 10%. So headshot damage is like most of what we want on this anyways, so a really nice perk combo here, and also we get to pick up Recoupment. Next perk here is Headhunter, and the final perk is Rapid Health for a bit of redundant healing, and that's pretty much all there is for the Heroic Instigator. Now for the secondary, I do take the Rate of Fire Inferno Pistol, mainly so we can mag dump, because we want to be triggering not only the perk over here, Retribution, Retribution, but also the perk in our perk tree, Motivated Melee. And this one says melee damage increases by 20% if this weapon has no ammo in its magazine. So we combine that with the perk over here, Retribution, we get like a 50% buff to our melee damage. Now it's not like literally 50%. The calculation here is quite a bit lower, but it's still a damage increase and does help us hit some breakpoints. Let's just like kill bosses a bit faster. Now for the Inferno pistol, if you want to like dump your magazine on this gun, the rate of fire is much better for that. And also just keep in mind, in Space Marine 2, when you empty your magazine in this game, it will force you to reload unless you like dodge or use your melee attack or something. So it's a little annoying, but if you are emptying your magazine, then immediately go into a melee attack because that will fix the like ammo dump. Next perk here is Divine Might, into the perk here, Motivated Melee, of course. And then I grab the perk here, Great Might. Then I go down here into the much better bottom tree, in my opinion, with the perk here, Perpetual Range, Increased Capacity, Admin Restoration, Extra Shot, and Trick Shot for Armor Restore. That's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now for our perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Upper Hand first. After a period of time, parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose 12 heavy hits and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. If you are using a block weapon in Space Marine 2, since block weapons do not stagger enemies unless you actually hit them with the block stun attack, it is just way better to have no knockback for that, because certain enemies like melee terminators, they will just not respond to the first explosion of 2 block charges, and having this no knockback allows you to get like that second or third one in, so that's really useful for you. So that's why I pick up Upper Hand. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. This is a 25% health damage reduction you can stack on top of the perk over here, Thrill of the Fight, for another 20% health damage reduction for 5 seconds. So this comes out to be like a 45% reduction on top of all of your armor restore, on top of your Fortitude for a 15% HP increase. Super strong perk options, guys. This is fucking incredible in this game, so this makes you significantly tankier as a combo. Next perk here is, of course, Retribution. Moving here into the perk Inner Fire. Now, this gives you 15% ability charge back on a finisher on a Majoris or higher enemy, though if you want to take Unmatched Zeal for healing, you can definitely do that. This is a very strong option as well, but Adrenaline Surge is where I'm getting my healing on this build, so we're taking Inner Fire. Next perk here is Collateral Damage. Diving Kick deals 50% more damage and additionally damages enemies on the way to the grapnel launcher's target. This perk is incredible. 50% more damage on your grapnel launcher will help you out a ton, though I will say, if you want to take like Restless Fortitude, you can definitely do that. A 40% range damage reduction, especially against Chaos for 10 seconds, will make you incredibly tanky against some of the most annoying enemies in the game, like Missile Cannon Terminators and stuff like that. So this will stack for your armor, because range damage reduction does affect your armor, not just your HP, and then on top of that, you will have the HP damage reduction of Thrill of the Fight and Conviction. That's pretty much all there is for this. Next perk here is Tenacity. After a range kill of a Majoris or higher enemy, Diving Kick's damage increases by 130%. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Now, being able to one-shot guys off your kick is incredible, because if you combine this perk with Collateral, you will just like damn near one-shot Extremis sometimes, so a really fun perk option. Obviously, the best perk option is technically like Zone of Impact and Tactical Prowess, but we're doing something a bit different today. Next perk here is Thrill of the Fight, for that 20% health damage reduction for 5 seconds on a parry, block, or dodge. Now, this is a very underrated perk on the Vanguard, in my opinion, mainly because this perk will re-trigger on every single parry, block, or dodge, even if the current 5 seconds are ongoing, and like most perks will not do that in this game. Like, so for example, if you have a perk effect like the Bulwark's Shield Bash here with Merciless Resolve for a no knockback after a Shield Bash, you have to wait for the 10 seconds to be up to actually re-trigger this. Thrill of the Fight will go off every single time, so nice option there. Final perk here is Adrenaline Rush. Melee kills of Majoris or higher enemies restore health by 5%, because some healing on a Vanguard build is nice, and on this build especially, I think this is like the best option. Now, for our prestige perk options, it is pretty standard. We take Battlefield Awareness for more range damage at close range for our Instigator, into the perk Fortitude for more health, and Launch Restoration and Restoration for armor restore, and that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. You know, I think this is a very strong build for both Chaos and Tyranids. Now, the White Scar's Chainsword is super damn fun and very powerful in Space Marine 2 at the moment, and hopefully this build guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to watch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, and also a link to my community Discord. And as always, take it easy. Thanks for watching. Bye.